Hey guys, I'm going to teach you how to do the purl stitch. It's basically the opposite of the knit stitch, but it allows you to do a greater variety of projects than just the knit stitch alone. So let's get started. I'll show you what to do. Alright, so we've gone through most of the hard stuff of learning how to knit. We've cast it on, we've done our first knit row, but if you want the braided pattern in your knit design, you have to do one row of knitting, one row of purling, one row of knitting, one row of purling. So we've just did a knit row, so now it's time to purl. So I'm going to show you how it's done. So everybody holds the needle a little differently. This is just how I do it, and I find it very helpful. So I hold the needle with my left hand, kind of like this. And I know it looks awkward, but it works for me. Everybody's different. So one thing I will point out is when you're knitting, the yarn needs to go in the back, and you take your needle, your right hand needle, your working needle, and you go behind the left one. When you're purling, the yarn comes towards the front, and you're going to take your needle, and instead of poking away from you, you're going to poke towards you. So this needle is going to go towards my hand now, and it's also going to go on top of this left needle instead of behind it. So take your yarn, wrap it over, and we're going to pull through the top loop. And just let that first stitch on the left hand needle fall off. And that's your first purl stitch, and you're just going to keep working like this all the way down the line. So again, your working needle is going to go towards your hand. You wrap the yarn around it, pull a loop through, and slide that stitch off. And you just keep doing the same repetitive thing all the way down. So again, just taking my working needle, kind of poking towards my hand, yarn goes over, and I pull it through. And then let that loop slide off. So yarn goes over, pull loop through, and let this last loop fall off. And notice how I'm using my index and my thumb finger to really control the yarn and bring it over the needle. I find that's the easiest for me when I'm trying to make this loop that goes through. And so one thing I want to point out, if I turn this over, you can now start to see this braided pattern just starting to form. So if you continue to do one row of knit, one row of purl, you'll end up with this braid design on one side. On the other side, you'll end up with tight knots that look like this. So this is called the purl side, and this is called the knit side. So if you're ever at a point and you don't know whether you're supposed to knit or supposed to purl, look at your design, and if the braid design is facing you as your needle points away, that means it's time to knit. But if you're looking at this side of it and your needle happens to be pointing away from you, that means it's time to purl. So stay tuned. The next thing that I'm going to do is just show you how to continue this stitch.